I think Philly fan is excited for Paul George, but I listened to WIP coming in today just out of curiosity of what our sister station in Philly was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a little bit of funniness, like John Ritchie's co-hosting their morning show, and a lot of just laying back and let everybody else talk about that. Football season's not quite here.
It's almost Eagles time, baby. Fly, Eagles, fly.
They have to be a little conflicted, right? Like, I hear what you're saying. The fit makes sense. He's also, 34?
Is Paul George 34?
Dude, this is year 14, 15 for him.
He is 34. You are correct.
He's 34.
Yep.
He's going to make $50-some-odd million when he's 38.
I mean, I think you're paying for a 2-year window, right? I mean,
it is a 2-year window for them. It has to be.
And I think you're okay paying for it again if it nets you what you want it to net you. You've never been to a conference finals with Embiid.
Is this better than the Knicks in Boston?
I think look, the biggest caveat in all of this is health, right? If you tell me they are healthy.
Who's never healthy in the playoffs?
Sure, I get it. But we've also had back-to-back postseasons where Giannis hasn't played because he's been hurt. We had the New York Knicks run themselves into the ground last year into the playoffs.
Got to his finals.
The Knicks?
Or the
conference final.
Game 7 of the second
almost
round,
getting there. And if they stayed healthy, maybe they would have gotten there, right? So who the hell knows how it's all going to play out? But if you just tell me on paper, I'm putting them right there with Boston and New York.
Really?
I absolutely am.
So healthy.
Embiid is maybe one of the best players in the entire league.
Yes.
Paul George is an elite wing still to this day. I know, again, he's 34 years old, so maybe there's only 2 years left. He's still a very good player. And Tyrese Maxey is one of the best up-and-coming young guards in the entire league, who had an absolute breakout performance last year in the playoffs.
There is something, as ridiculous as you may think it is, there is something, though, for people about Joel Embiid's going to get to a conference finals. And I think that's the thing. The swing makes sense from the Philly angle. Again, the fit makes sense. The rest of their they just gave Maxey $200 million today.
They did. It's largely built around 3 players.
And 2 of those 3 have had injury stuff in their past.
For sure.
And that's my only pushback to all of this. The Clippers were gladly saying, the make or break is 1 extra year on that contract. Good luck to you. And their press release was so weird. Like, we had 5 years of contention with you. Like, it felt like that in the first couple. And after that, it was like, no, you didn't.
Not a lot this year. First round exit.
You got out of the first round. But I'm just fascinated by it because Daryl Morey believes in the 3-star theory versus we've seen teams, and teams have good players here that are winning championships. But we've seen more of the complete team stuff win out.
Sure.
And so is Daryl Morey going to be right here? Or is this we're swinging as hard out of our shorts that we possibly can in hopes that our, to use your reference earlier, our golf drive goes 340 yards straight?
Yeah, what I would say to that is, first on the Embiid front, some of that stuff does drive me nuts. I'm a big Embiid guy. I love watching him play. I love his personality. I think he's hilarious. He has never been to a conference finals. But then you also have to look at the layers behind that of his first running mate was Ben Simmons, who literally forgot how to shoot a basketball in postseason series.
He also had a bad series in that Hawks series.
I'm not saying he was great, but Ben Simmons couldn't shoot a
basketball,
basketball, and he was passing up layups. And can you win if your number 2 can't make a layup?
No.
Then he gets paired up with James Harden, who has what history of track record in the playoffs?
Not a good one.
Right? Totally disappearing. Last year, they finally got Maxey to kind of grow and develop and become that number 2 guy. His number 3 was Tobias Harris, who was just stealing money at that point.
He was the worst value player in the NBA last year.
Just stealing money.
Yeah.
So when you compare Jokic has an NBA championship and more MVPs. If I gave Joel Embiid, Aaron Gordon, and Jamal Murray, do you think he gets to a conference finals in the East over the last 3 years? The answer to that question for me is yes. He does get to an Eastern Conference Finals. That's a better combination of players than he's ever been around. So he's finally now got the group around him to get there. Again, they need to stay healthy, but I think one of the other things that plagued the Clippers that they learned the hard way, and I'll be curious to see how it goes from here, is that Kawhi Leonard's not a leader. And you've been hammering this for years. He's just not a guy that's a culture setter. He's not a guy that's going to help develop your young players. He went into Toronto in a ready-made situation. He went into San Antonio in a ready-made situation, and he capitalized. He's an unbelievable basketball player. But when it comes to culture, leadership, establishing a vibe in the locker room, holding others accountable, he doesn't do any of that. And so he floundered in L.A., I think, partly because of that. And Paul George had to kind of take that mantle on. Now he's going to Philly where he's not necessarily going going to be the face. Embiid is an MVP. Embiid has been there for a decade. He's going to be the face of that. And so I think he can just kind of operate in the background a little bit, not have to be the number one guy. Again, of course they have to stay healthy, but you can do that with literally any team in the NBA. Is Giannis going to be healthy in the playoffs next year?
I don't know.
Is New York going to stay healthy? Or is Brown and Tatum going to be healthy in the postseason? Is Porzingis going to be healthy? Like, we can do that with any team in the league.
Orlando chose not to get into the Paul George sweepstakes. They went and got KCP for 3 years, $60 million. The third year is a player option.
It's a really good deal for them, I feel like.
It is a good deal. I thought it was fascinating. The Nuggets reportedly, the Clippers were interested in a trade with the Nuggets, and the Nuggets were the ones to back out because they didn't want to give up draft capital.
Yeah.
And I just was like,
okay.
What do we care about draft? Like, this goes back to the opening segment. Like, who cares about the draft picks, man?
Yeah,
You've got Jokic, Murray, Gordon, Paul George.
Drafting, 25 to 30 range in every draft, right?
Yeah, I just, look, I have some bad takes. There's no doubt. I had a bad take exposed to me over the weekend from a good friend of mine, which I felt like was a little bit of a stab in the back of the Robert Covington trade because they were in win now.
We got shooters.
We got shooters. No doubt. I have a lot of bad takes. Breaking news. It happens. But like when you have a Jokic and you got a Murray, I just don't understand what we're doing here. Like, is luxury tax that big of a deal? And now second apron conversations are big in the conversation space, but I don't want to get into that. I'm just kind of fascinated by how all of these moves are happening. And now our Jeremy Grant is being linked to the LA Lakers. That was the scuttle that came out yesterday. The Lakers and Portland are in talks with Jeremy Grant as potentially being a part of a trade package. Now, will that trade happen this morning during our show?
Hopefully.
I would love it if it did. Is it going to happen between Colin, Danny Dusty, or Primetime? I don't know. But that is the new scuttle, is that the Lakers now sniffing around Portland for a 30-year-old power forward in Jeremy Grant.
Feels like it's one of those moves that once you got the Paul George domino to fall, maybe see where a couple of other free agents go, then you pivot to, okay, we lost out on those sweepstakes. Let's go after Jeremy Grant. It could be happening soon.